Welcome back. Love them or hate them, performance reviews are bound to be part of your work life at some point. The trick, of course, is to make sure you're projecting your best work when you're asked to prove yourself. Joining us now, workplace expert Mary Abijay. Mary, always great having you here. Thanks very much for your time this time. You're a believer that the performance review, that sit down with the boss, annual or whatever it might be, it's not a moment to be shy. You need to make sure that the work you've done is recognized and heard and seen. And this is your chance where you could actually talk about your successes gracefully and without the fear of having to put anyone else down. This is your moment to really be clear about, here's what I accomplished, here's how fantastic I am. So if there were accomplishments, don't leave the room without making sure they've been put on the table. That's
right. You have to really, when you're going to performance review, you have to make sure that you are prepared for it. And when you're doing your own, a lot of performance reviews, you have to do your own as well. And you want to really go back throughout the entire year and really mark what you accomplished, what were your successes, and really come with a list and be able to talk about those things.
Now, this is movie awards season, and a lot of people suspect that the movies that are out at the end of the year have some sort of an advantage. When you're sitting down with your boss, you want to make sure that something big and good from early in the year is there.
I recommend going through your emails, going through your project plan, really taking the time, going through your calendar from the first month that you started, if it was January, all the way through. Do not just rely on the last couple things that were on your plate.
And don't rely on the boss's memory either.
Don't rely on the boss's memory. While you want to keep the boss's perspective in mind while you're doing it, you want to really go back through everything that you did.
Now, here's what I'm curious to get from you. Why? You talk about solicit input from coworkers.
Yes, that's right.
How are they going to be helpful in your
Well, they're going to be helpful because we're not always the best judge of who we are. We're not always the best judge of our impact. Some of us are grandiose ourselves too much, right? We think we're better than we are. And some of us tend not to realize how good we are. So solicit a little feedback from trusted coworkers and colleagues. Find out what your impact was. Help them think through some of the accomplishments you may have made. You're not going to use them verbatim, but it'll give you a rounded perspective of things you can talk about in your own performance.
So if you have a trusted coworker, or maybe if you're lucky enough to have a work wife or a work husband, they might be a better advocate for you than you yourself.
That's exactly right. So get their perspective and they'll help you think through some things that you may not have thought of that you should talk about.
You're an advocate for bringing facts to the table. Not so much gauzy language maybe, but sort of objective things that are going to appeal to a boss's sensibility.
Yeah, put some metrics on it. Saying like, I'm great at customer service is one thing, but saying like, I resolved 98% of the customer complaints that came through me, or I increased our revenue or bottom line by 37%, or put dollar figures. If you can factualize that and turn it into real hardcore numbers, that's really going to stick in people's mind.
If a review is going well, some people are going to be tempted to pivot to salary, to the money. Right? Yes or no?
No, don't do that. So you want to keep these things separate. You want to leave your boss with a great impression of who you are, but and most companies don't combine them, but this is not the time to ask for a raise. This is not the time to use this as a bargaining chip. You want to talk about how great you are and let it marinate for a while and do the salary negotiations at another time.
Interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that. You're a believer in using appropriate language. Can you tell us what you mean by that?
So it's kind of a balance between, you don't want to be so formal and stiff and robotic that people are like, ooh, you're icky. But you also don't want to be so flowery or conversational that doesn't have business terminology. So really think through, and it's kind of like a resume as well. If you're writing it, think through of using strong, powerful action words and verbs. You don't want to limp into it, but you also don't want to like overpower either. So be really careful about your language.
Interesting. The performance review is classically the look back. Should it also be the look ahead?
Absolutely. So this is the thing you want to do. You want to be able to also look at some of your goals, right? And these might be some of your areas, what we call areas of opportunity, things that you may be looking to improve. So you may have discovered while you're doing your own review that you maybe weren't so great in some areas. This is great. Use these as areas for opportunities, improvement, and tell your boss, here are some areas I'd like to grow in.
You're a big believer in the self-critique.
Yes, absolutely. You have to self-critique. You have to be the first one out there that says, here are my strengths, and here are my areas of opportunity. You have to be your own advocate in both growth and in success.
If your company culture doesn't include review, should you ask for one?
If your company culture doesn't include review, you should ask for one, and that doesn't keep you from doing it yourself. I believe everybody should do. I don't have a boss. I do a performance review on myself every year. I really think about what I accomplished, what I had set out to do, where I fell short, where I did well, and where I want to grow. Everyone should make this part of their annual personal performance review, no matter what.
You hold yourself to a high standard, and
I
it
do.
shows. Mary Abbott, our friend from the Career Stone Group. Always great to be able to talk with you.
Thanks for